Okay, so my next book is ABC Universe, and this is also one kind of sort of for our older students, and I'll kind of get into that when I discuss my lesson plans. So this was made by the American Museum of Natural History, so there's no author or illustrator. It's all been done. The American Museum of Natural History is the author and illustrator. So this book is pretty cool. So it talks about everything to do with space, and so our first one is astronaut, black hole, comet, just kind of flipping through, dwarf planet, Earth, flare, galaxy, the Hubble Space Telescope, Io, Jupiter's many moons. I've never heard of that one. Jupiter itself, the Kepler spacecraft, lunar eclipse, the moon, so on and so forth. And under each of these little things, it gives a little brief description about it. So this one is about orbit. And so my purpose for justifying this is an ABC book because clearly it has the letters all lined out. But like the last one, this is an ABC book for older children because it's meant, while it's still teaching them their alphabet and their letters, it is meant to fill them with some sort of information. So this obviously book is of information filled with space. So I think as far as development that we hit, I think we hit cognitive, maybe in some form social. It gives them a place in the world so they can really start to outline that solar system and kind of think, well, this is where Earth is in relativeness to Uranus, whatever we call it. Jupiter, Neptune, like this is where we are in the solar system. So I think on some level it gives them how to place themselves geographically. And so that's kind of why I also feel like this might fall into social. Also falls into language, teach them all sorts of new words about the universe. Words like orbit, flare, I think nebular was in here. Is that what it's called? There's the X-ray binary, zenith. It's an imaginary point directly overhead, in case you're curious. The quasar, nebula. So all sorts of different stuff in this book that will teach them different words that they can use in their language and when they write papers and stories. So I think for the development part of with that social and language and cognitive, students would have 30 minutes granted. So this lesson plan is going to be dependent on the fact that you have access to technology in your classroom. So for example, like in one of the classrooms I'm in for field experience, they do have, one has iPads and one has Chromebooks. So they do have the means to do projects like this. So for example, students would have 30 minutes. Each student would pick a different letter, and whatever's under that letter is what you would research. You'd have 30 minutes to throw something together really fast that you could teach the class a little bit about your letter and more to do about zenith, for example. What is zenith? Where did zenith come from? And that's making them use this astrological space language that we are teaching them. And then for the literary elements, this book has a lot of imagery. So yes, it has pictures, which almost kind of defeats the purpose. But for example, in the galaxy, it says, our galaxy, the Milky Way, has hundreds of billions of stars in it. And so while there's a little bitty picture of the galaxy, students are thinking, oh my gosh, think about all these hundreds of billions of stars. And so there is a lot of imagery. There's a lot of imagery with the comet's tail, that kind of thing. So what I would have students do to reinforce that imagery aspect was they would have to create their own planet. And they would have to also use that imagery as well as a picture, but tell me what the picture is not showing me, because that's the point of imagery. And that's the point of imagery in literature, so we don't have to have a picture, so we can infer something else from the words that aren't in the picture and get a fuller look at what the story is talking about. So I think for those two, that would be my lesson plan. I really liked this book. I would seriously consider this being one of the ones that I picked for my classroom.